Alright, 2007 Chevy Suburban HD, the 2500. They don't make those anymore. Looks like from 2007 to 2014 they had this same basic design where to change the battery you need to remove these two braces here. So 13 millimeter bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we'll get those braces off of there. And see what's next. So here's a pro tip I learned when doing my Volkswagen about 6 months ago or so, actually about a year ago. I was just thinking I'd leave these bolts here in place so I wouldn't lose them or whatever, and then stupid me, when I'm removing the bracket, I knock that one up and it falls down into the damn engine, and luckily it fell right out through to the bottom and I was able to get it. But when I did it with the Volkswagen, it fell into the engine and didn't fall out the bottom, and then it was a real friggin' disaster to get it back. So be careful of that. Don't let your friggin' nuts and bolts fall into the engine, and if they do, make sure it falls in a place where they fall right through to the ground. Anyway, so now I need a 10 millimeter for the terminals on the battery, and they say to do the negative first. So positive is the big red one, negative over there. They say to do the negative first, so I'll get my 10 millimeter and do the... Alright, so that guy, get him out of the way, stick it over there, and we'll go for this guy now. Whoops. Alright, and then there's this whole plastic sheath thing. Just kind of lift that out, and then this whole kind of thing goes as a one-piece unit. Get that out of the way. Now the next big problem, there's a bolt down here, and it's a 13 millimeter as well. Get that out of the way. Stay there. It's a 13 millimeter that holds the, you can see it right there. It holds the battery in place, and you need a good size extension if you don't have good room to reach in there. So that's the last guy to take. I bought this set of extensions when I was doing the Volkswagen because it was nasty, the way it was just tightly in there, and I had to use this big long one. So I'll figure out what one is right for this job. I think I'll probably use the same one even though it's longer than I need. That's a pretty long extension. Well, that's a rotten son of a whore. That snapped. I'm not very impressed with that, and I felt it was going to snap. It wasn't given, and I should have went and got some oil to squirt in there, some penetrating oil, and the fucker snapped. Shit. So there's the bolt head, or the bolt. I'm just giving it some WD-40, and then I'm going to go at it with a set of vice grips. And hopefully I will be able to get the friggin' thing out of there. If not, it's going to have to be drilled out or something. Damn it. Well, that's not coming loose. I can't get a good grip on it with those vice grips. And here's what I'm going to do for the short term anyway. You can see that there's these ridges here. One here, two on this side, and the battery kind of slides up into there, and then this bolt just keeps it from sliding out. And I think what I'm going to be able to do is get it in there, and then I'll figure out a way to strap the damn thing in place around it. And I think actually that other bar that I took out sort of does that anyway. I'll get a good look. When this bar is back in place, I think it kind of holds the battery in place anyway. But I'll see what that looks like, and as long as we only drive this thing in town, I think I'll be okay for in town right now until I can get it drilled out or do something else. Damn, what a friggin' thing. I've got a few mechanic friends. I'll ask them what to do about it, but I'll make sure it's secured in place in the meantime. Well, here's an interesting tidbit as well. This was loose as hell, and it's connected up to to the positive, and that was probably part of my issue, that the thing kept going dead. But the battery is 5 years old. I put it in it just after I bought this thing, so I know the battery was due for replacement anyway. Alright, when you take the negative off first, that means you put it on last, so that means the positive goes back on first. So we'll get that guy in there and screwed up. Alright, I'm putting this guy back on. Got my big extension. Whoops, wrong way. Oh no, right way. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. So I'm just now this bar, it does look like I'm going to be able to do something now. I don't recommend you do this at home without talking to a real mechanic first, but the bar does seem to be designed to somewhat keep that battery in place. And if I can clamp something onto here and down onto the top there, I think Bob's my uncle and I'll be able to keep that battery in place. So I'm going to see what I can jerry rig for that. Don't try that part at home unless you talk to a real mechanic. And since we've already snapped a bolt, remember when you're tightening them up, use some sense and don't snap your bolts. So, well, that's probably good. I don't know what to tell you in terms of how to do it properly, but use some common sense and don't snap your bolts. So that battery definitely slides around pretty easily if you don't do something about it. So here's what I'm going to jerry rig for the moment. This thing normally goes down bottom there, and the bolt that I snapped off goes through it. That seems to fit there pretty close to perfectly. And I'm just going to use some zip ties to zip that in place, and I'm pretty confident that's going to hold it well enough to just drive around town until I can figure out a more permanent solution. But this tells me that my whole plan of securing it here should work. I just got to find a really good way to secure it. I already thought of it. So that zip tie, I'll put another one across over here that'll hold it in place this way. I'll put a hose clamp around here with the screw part of the hose clamp resting right here. Tighten that down, and I think I'll be good enough for me. Even good enough for the back roads probably, but we'll see how it goes. Well, that's pretty secure actually, believe it or not. I'm going to have to take it out for a test drive. And then I'm going to have to figure out how to get that bolt dealt with properly. Holy frig.